going to be having a conversation. We'll be speaking with Henry Mentink, who's here visiting Damanhur, who's actually part of our School of Meditation and a dear friend of Damanhur, and is going to share with us a bit about his vision and his work. So Henry, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's actually go back, and I'm very curious. We're asking people who are visiting us, who are working with us, if in their childhood, in their lives, they had a sense of mission. What's your feeling about that?
Yeah. Now that started when I was 10 years old, so on a young age. That was the moment, and a lot of people remember that, when President Kennedy was murdered.
Yes.
So at that moment I did not understand anything about politics, but it hit me, or it struck me, and so I started reading about him and doing speeches on school about him, but because I had the belief or the feeling that he was working on something good, and the same happened also a few years after with Martin Luther King. And so Martin Luther King, Kennedy were for me were inspiring people, and so that's for me also the main theme in my life, to do something about peace. In what sense?
So about peace.
Peace, that's for me the most important.
And Henry,
element.
we should share, you weren't actually raised in the United States. You were influenced you were living where when you had these revelations?
That was in Holland. I'm living in Holland.
And you continue to live in Holland?
Yeah, and but one or 2 years ago I did something, a past life, and I came also to the States. Orlando was the name that came up. Orlando, somewhere in the south, and I also after university I went for a few months to the States to travel all around. So I'm familiar with the States too. Yeah.
So Henry, then your this mission around peace.
Yeah.
How has that informed your life journey?
Yeah, I did just normally school and things like that, but I was all the time looking for answers about what's going on, also in the religions, and find out what things could help me. But I was not a person of doing actions or being against something. I want to find a way to do a positive action, to show an example. That was my main idea. So I never went for demonstrations or things like that. Yeah.
I often say that in my work and in our work here, I meet two kinds of activists, both of whom are quite important, but I meet the activists who are really pushing against something, working to change a system that's not working. And then there's this entire other sector of activists who are working to build something new. So I find it interesting that you found yourself resonant and attracted to Damanhur. So this idea of creating something new, how have you found that to be represented in the work in Damanhur?
Yeah, for me, Damanhur is all special and new. So, and I also in the 80s I worked for a big company for 10 years, and after that I quit. But in that period I wrote a manuscript, a book, with a lot of ideas I now find in Damanhur. And I gave it the title Creato. And I did not know at that time that it is an Italian word. So, and then a few years ago, no, in the 19th I wrote an article about Damanhur, but at that time I could not come or did something with it. But a few years ago I wrote again about Damanhur, and then I said, I have to go.
So when was your first visit to Damanhur?
2012. Yeah,
2012.
Yeah, then I visited for the first time.
And then you entered our School of Meditation when?
1 year later. So that's I was here also in the summer of 2013, in the period Falco died, and I was on that solstice and the full moon ceremony, and so after that things start rolling, and I went also then in the school of meditation. Yeah.
Do you know the story, the myth of the tapis? Has that been shared with you?
No, doesn't ring a bell. No.
Do you have any sense of souls that are in agreement to work together in this lifetime?
Yeah, that's for me. That's, I think, the way it works. But I just have the feelings, that kinds of feelings about it. Yeah.
Right. So Henry, you've actually done quite a lot of work in the realm of alternative economics.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you explain to us a bit about your work in that field and your vision for how that can actually be of assistance in this building of a new society?
Yeah. So what I said, I worked in the 80s in a big company, a seed company. I did market research and information policies and things like that. But I could not feel well in the way they worked. And I also had a feeling I could not change a big company. So I decided to stop and start for my own. And in the first few years I did some consultant work, but my ambition was to set up companies that have an ideal, but also make a new type of business way of working. So combining ideal with business, that was my goal. So the first thing what I did was building a fair trade shop in Holland, the first professional fair trade shop in Holland. And that was also, with an architect, we developed a nice shop, and with the customers we did crowdfunding. At the time it did not exist, but we did crowdfunding.
What year was this?
1993.
So you were really ahead of your time in terms of this concept of crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding, yeah, I did it. Yeah.
Can you just explain to those who might not know what fair trade is?
Fair trade is then you buy products from developed countries, and you pay just a fair price, and you skip a lot of how you call it, middlemen out of the process, and so you make the whole process cheaper, and then you can pay a better price to the developer producers in developing countries.
And where did the inspiration for that business come from? I mean, you made a big choice to leave what most people would have looked at as a secure path in your life. And something inspired you to be able to step off of that. What do you think the kernel of that inspiration is?
Yeah, I think I only can say it was just a feeling. I also had, because I had a very good job, but also I had 4 children, wife, taking care of the children, and from one day to the other I stopped and jumped into nothing. How
did your family receive that news that you were leaving?
They accepted, and we worked together, and but I had a sort of trust that everything would work well. And a nice experience was also that, because when I started I had savings, I had some money because I had a good job. But after 3 years, all savings were gone. So that happens also.
Right. And this is a familiar story. I think we can all relate to this in terms of this sort of life journey where you begin to follow an intuition.
You follow your intuition, and when everything was gone, then miracles start to happen. So I got some visions about new products. One of the products was a sort of an air mile concept. Air miles concept.
Air miles?
Air miles, but then for sustainable products only. But at that time, air miles did not exist. So I wrote to the government this idea, and I got a project to do. And so for a few years I could I had money again to work on ideals I had.
But money connected to, again, this idea of following an inspiration and a mission that had a bigger benefit than just your own personal wherewithal.
Yeah. So I discovered that just, let's say, normal working for a company, also I had a nice job and things were fine, but then you don't work with your talents, you don't work with your heart. Or you work with your heart, but you're not searching what are your strengths. And so when you work for yourself, you go that path of going inside and find out what are your strengths to work with.
What would you say to people who are feeling this, who are in their day-to-day lives, in their usual jobs, and really feeling this sense that we're in a shift right now, and that there's something bigger they should pursue? What would you say to them in terms of having the courage to step into that?
I think the first step they have to do is to accept that they are in that job, and to I would always say send love to the job or to the company where they are working for, but keep your vision alive. And then that's what happened to me. Then at a certain moment you get the feeling, now I have to do it. So don't become angry about the job or that you don't like it. Just accept that you are there where you are, and from acceptance you can grow and find a new path.
You know, I think that resonates with something we often say in Dominor, that the time to change is when you're at a comfortable place, when you're really at a comfortable place. Because that gives you the strength to step into something new.
So when you don't like a job, you can make it comfortable just for yourself, and you can do that.
Right. So Henry, I've had the pleasure of actually welcoming you into the story room, where you had a chance to actually engage in this larger mythology of humanity. I'm interested in your perspective of that experience of seeing these pieces of this larger mythology put together in relationship to one another.
That's a difficult question. Maybe you can make it more precise. What I'm thinking about stories, that people have all their stories, and they, to my opinion, they are connected via the, let's say, the universe, and via the Akasha field from Erwin Laszlo. When you work from your heart and from your talents, it automatically fits into each other. So I'm just doing my job, and everything will go fine, synchronically. So
I was actually curious about you. You had come into the story room that we'd created here. What your impression of that was when you first saw that? Do you remember the room with all the index cards on the walls from our esoteric archive? You had a chance to see that.
But that was I'm sorry, that was almost a year ago when we met. So I don't have a clear picture about that now. So I'm being honest.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Good. Okay. So you've also been involved in the creation of other sustainable businesses. Can you speak a bit about the transportation, sustainable transportation businesses that you've been involved with? When
I started for myself, I didn't have a car, so I at a certain time, that was also 1993, I started to rent a car, but also do it together with 3 other families. So that was the start of an idea of a car sharing company. So the first car was in 1993, but I had also had a job from the government to set up a foundation to promote the idea of car sharing. So the government paid me to do the promotion, but the car share initiative, that was my personal initiative. So the first car was in 1993, the second in 1998, and then I had 7 customers and 2 cars, and then in 2000, 2002, I had 6 cars, just on my own, having 6 cars and about 40 members. And then I thought, yeah, I should make a business out of it. So in the 1st of January 2003, I started that company. And
what was the name of that company?
The name of the company is My Wheels. My Wheels. And so in the first period, we only bought cars, and I also did that with a lot of, and also again with crowdfunding. So people could invest money, not only customers could invest money into the company, and they got as interest free kilometers. And when you calculate that, it's 8% interest.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that, and that gave me a lot of money to buy cars. But it also gave me, and that's also a nice story, that it gave me a problem with the Dutch National Bank. Because when you receive a lot of money, you can also play for a bank. You're sort of a bank. So they wrote me a letter that I should stop, or first I should give information, and they will have to research on that, on what I'm doing, and I didn't like to have lawyers to solve the problems because it's expensive, and I don't like the fight. So I thought the only thing I can do is sending love, and that's what I did, and just love the people who are working from the bank, because I think they do the best job. They do their best in a system I don't like, but they do their good.
And what was the outcome of that?
And that was interesting because also little miracles happened. That a few months later I was invited in Den Haag, and I got a decoration of the government for sustainable. My sustainable jobs I did. And one man said, oh, that could help you with the Dutch bank. But I didn't go to the bank saying I'm decorated. Right. So I did nothing. But 4 weeks later, they called me and they said, you can come to the office, we have 4 solutions. And then it was solved. So I strongly believe that the way, the intention you work and you send to other people, although you don't like them, for instance, that can help you.
It reflects back to you.
Yeah, it reflects back, yeah. Right. Yeah. So that was the first period I bought cars, but at a certain moment we thought, why buying cars when there are so many cars already? So then we invited people to put their car on our website. And we arranged the sharing of the cars. So we bought about 200 cars, but at the moment we have 2,500 cars.
Wow.
And thousands of customers all over the country.
Wow, so this has been a tremendous success in Holland.
That was a nice success.
And has that been replicated in other places? Or
at that time a lot of new companies started as, with the same idea. So I also had the result. I not only started company, but also a lot of competitors start to work with that idea.
So when I see the sort of ride shares that I've seen in New York City and other places, were you the seed of that idea originally?
No, I've to be honest, in the first big car share companies started in Switzerland in the 80s, the last. So I started in Holland, but I'm not the father of car sharing. I have to be honest. Yeah.
So if you.
But the difference is what I did. I share cars, but I also share profit. So that's what other companies don't do. And at this moment, all the car share companies are bought by car companies. And only our company is independent.
Interesting. Interesting.
And that's more or less the same formula as in Damenher. You do it as a federation or a cooperation.
It's a collective.
Collective, yeah. So that's the difference.
So you've really found your ideals reflected in an entire community when you come to Damanhur.
Yeah.
So if you had to define what your core passion is now moving forward into the future, how would you define that?
And then I come back to peace, and my ambition is there must be world peace, and how to do that. I don't have the exact answers, but I think I will take some steps. And one of the things I would like to help Damanhur to promote the idea of I see Damanhur as a sort of a diamond with a lot of potential, and why not send it out all over the world? That's one of the ideas. I'm also member of the Club of Budapest.
Yes.
And there we developed the idea, also together with other organizations, why not do a walking event in 2020 with 1 billion people. And with that theme about new economy and peace, and so that's what we are working on as an idea, and next years we will take steps in that direction.
And maybe you can explain for some of our viewers who are not so familiar with the Club of Budapest, what exactly the Club of Budapest is.
The Club of Budapest was founded by Erwin Laszlo. It started 20 years ago. You could say it's a sort of a sister of the Club of Rome. Many people know the Club of Rome. Club of Rome, in a few words, they work on sustainable and doing a very good job.
But we should say that the Club of Rome was initially founded by a group of scientists who were living behind the Iron Curtain, who were meeting in secret during a period, working on these questions when it wasn't a popular endeavor.
And the difference with Club of Rome is that there's more integrated, and there's also spirituality and economics and art and sustainable are integrated in the Club of Budapest. And Erwin Laszlo did very much, he was also an artist himself, but he did a lot of research. He wrote 50 or 60 books on the ideas of how working with the Akasha field and working in a new
Irvin
concept.
is actually the term Akashic field was actually Irvin's term initially, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, he worked on it, and I think it's a nice concept, and it also needs a new way of working on, and I'm discussing with him how to bring that into practice, and that is. The practice is new type of business or new types of jobs, or maybe let's hear in Damanhur new type of art, where we are sitting here. So that can make the idea of the Akasha field, because it's a difficult concept, but we may have to make a practice.
So in other words, we might say this idea of bringing consciousness into business.
That's also what he wants to do. And then you have to create new type of business, like what I did with car sharing.
I think it's beautiful that you have models, because I think that's compelling for people. These are not just ideals, but they're ideals that have been actually realized.
So that's what I like to do. And I also, one of the projects I want to do together with Damanhur is the idea of developing a birth card for when I did it with my son. That was almost 30 years ago.
A birth card?
A birth card. When my son was born, we had the idea, why do we send a birth card to the family? Because everybody knows already. So
an announcement, we might say in America, a birth announcement.
A birth announcement, birth announcement, So what we did, we made a special, very cheap birth announcement, birth card, with the sentence, "Let everything that breatheth live in peace." And that sentence we translated into 6 world languages, and then we sent it to all heads of states all over the world.
Wow.
And we got a few response from Finland, Austria, but also from Shimon Peres from Israel. So that was very nice. And now my son is married and have a baby, and we will start again, and then we will make a package of it that parents can order the package with all the addresses and the information and how to do it, so that all parents all over the world will send lots of cards, announcements to all heads of state.
An amazing reminder to our heads of state of what's truly important.
Yeah, and then we will register all the babies, and that will be the global baby Peace Corps for the future.
Excellent. What a wonderful, wonderful idea.
And when you buy a package, I have to discuss it with Damen Her, but then they get a free tour in the temple. And then we have a lot of visitors to connect to Damen Her, and then they can experience what they can find here.
I love that. I love that.
So that's what I'm working on.
Great. Well, Henry, it's been really a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
And you're an inspiration, and we're really happy to have you working in collaboration with us here.
Okay, thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Conte.
Conte.